Everyone in that courtroom believed my client was innocent. The judge, the jury, even me. Until one sentence said by the wrong person changed everything. I've been a criminal defense lawyer for 12 years. In that time, I've defended people society had already decided were guilty. I've heard lies told with confidence and truths whispered in fear, but nothing prepared me for this case. It started on a Monday morning. Rainy, quiet, routine. My assistant handed me the file and said, "Another open and shut case. A young man, 23, no criminal record, accused of armed robbery." Security footage was blurry. The witness testimony was shaky. And the prosecution's case? Thin. Honestly, it looked easy. My client sat across from me in the interview room, hands folded, eyes down. He looked scared, not hardened, not manipulative. "I didn't do it," he said, not dramatically, not defensively, just tired. I believed him. As the trial began, everything worked in our favor. The main witness contradicted herself twice. The timeline didn't add up. The weapon was never recovered. During cross-examination, the jury leaned forward. They were listening to me. I dismantled the prosecution's argument piece by piece. By the third day, I could feel it. That quiet shift in the room. We were winning. During a recess, the prosecutor walked past me and muttered, "Lucky break." I smiled. Then came the final witness, a man no one expected to matter much. A store employee, late 20s, nervous. The prosecution asked basic questions. Nothing new. Then it was my turn. I stood, buttoned my jacket, and asked casually, "You didn't see the robber's face clearly, correct?" He nodded. "And you told police the suspect was approximately 6 feet tall?" "Yes." I glanced briefly at my client. 5'10", close enough. Then I asked the question that changed everything. "And when you heard the gun click, what hand was the robber holding it in?" The witness froze. The courtroom went silent. He swallowed, then said, "His left." My client stiffened. I felt it before I understood it. My client was born without full use of his left hand. That detail wasn't in the police report. It wasn't public. Only his family and doctors knew. My heart started racing. I looked at the witness again. "Are you sure?" I asked carefully. "Yes," he said, "I'm sure." I sat down. Suddenly, the pieces rearranged themselves in my mind. The delays, the calm, the reason he never testified. He didn't need to lie. He assumed no one would ask the right question. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the trial. The witness, the answer. The next morning before court, I met my client privately. I closed the door. "Did you do it?" I asked. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he looked up. "Yes." No emotion, no panic. "I thought you already knew," he added. "In court, I did my job. I didn't reveal privileged information. I didn't sabotage my client. But I stopped pushing. I let the jury connect the dots. The verdict came back guilty. As they led him away, he turned once and nodded at me. Not angry, not grateful, just accepting. People think lawyers always fight for justice. The truth is, we fight for the law. That case changed me. Now, when clients say I didn't do it, I listen. But I also watch their hands. Sometimes the most dangerous leads are the ones no one bothers to tell. She never cried in my office. She never raised her voice. And when the judge asked her to speak, she couldn't say a single word. That was the moment I realized this case was never just about evidence. I've represented victims, criminals, and people caught somewhere in between. But this case changed how I understand silence. She was 19, a college freshman, no prior record, no history of trouble, as the defense would later call it. She came to my office with her mother, but she did all the talking at first. The girl sat beside her, hands clenched in her lap, staring at the floor. When I finally asked her a question directly, she flinched. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm just not good at talking." I told her she didn't have to be. The case was difficult from the start. No witnesses, no clear timeline, no physical evidence strong enough to make the defense nervous. Just her statement. And in court, statements are questioned like crimes. The accused was older, confident, well-spoken. His lawyer leaned hard into doubt. She waited days to report. She continued going to class. She didn't fight back. I'd heard those arguments before. They never get easier. During preparation, I asked her gently, "Are you ready to testify?" She nodded, but her hands shook. In the courtroom, she looked smaller than I remembered. When she took the stand, the room felt heavy. She answered the prosecutor's questions quietly, carefully. Then came cross-examination. The defense attorney smiled as he stood. "You didn't scream, did you? You didn't run? You didn't tell anyone immediately?" With every question, her voice faded, until finally, she stopped answering at all. The judge waited. The jury watched. She stared straight ahead, frozen. I stood up. "Your Honor," I said. "May I approach?" I turned to her and spoke softly, but clearly. "You don't have to relive it," I said. "You just have to tell the truth as best you can." She looked at me. Then she shook her head. "I can't," she whispered. Something shifted in that moment. Not legally, but humanly. I addressed the court. "This silence," I said, "is not uncertainty. It's trauma." I explained what the jury hadn't been told. How shock works. How fear doesn't always look like resistance. How memory doesn't move in straight lines. The defense objected. The judge overruled. For the first time, the room listened. She never finished her testimony, but she didn't need to. The jury saw what words couldn't explain. The verdict came back guilty. Not because she was perfect. Not because the case was clean. But because her silence finally made sense. After the trial, she came back to my office alone. She handed me a folded note. It read, "Thank you for believing me when I couldn't believe myself. I still keep it in my desk." Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it sounds like silence finally being heard. An 82-year-old woman was found dead in her home. No signs of struggle. No forced entry. No clear suspect. But what followed shocked everyone. Because 3 different lawyers touched this case and each of us uncovered a different truth. I was assigned the case 2 weeks after her death. The victim was a retired schoolteacher, widowed, lived alone for years. My client was her neighbor, mid-30s, unemployed, already known to the police. The media had decided before the trial even began. He did it. The evidence seemed convincing. He was the last person seen near her house. His fingerprints were on her door. He owed money, but something didn't sit right with me. The fingerprints? Old. The timeline? Assumed, not proven. Then I noticed something strange. The woman's medication. She had been prescribed a hard drug, one that becomes lethal if doubled. No signs of violence. No toxins. No struggle. I argued it wasn't murder. It was a medical accident. The jury disagreed. My client was convicted. As they led him away, he looked at me and said, "She trusted the wrong person." At the time, I didn't understand what he meant. I was the one who put that neighbor away. To me, the case was clear. Motive, opportunity, a vulnerable victim. But 3 months after the verdict, something arrived on my desk. A bank statement. The old woman had been withdrawing large sums of money. Consistently, quietly. Not for herself, for her grandson. A man with a gambling addiction. And a criminal record we hadn't connected before. He had visited her the night she died. Off the books. Unmentioned. Ignored. I reopened the case. We discovered he had been crushing her medication into her tea. Not violently. Not suddenly. Slowly. To control her. To access her money. When confronted, he confessed. Not to murder. To helping her sleep. I realized then justice doesn't always look like the right verdict. Sometimes it looks like fixing a mistake too late. By the time I entered the picture, the criminal case was over. I wasn't there for punishment. I was there for responsibility. I represented the estate. What everyone missed was this. The woman had repeatedly asked for help. She had told her doctor she felt confused. She told her bank she felt pressured. She told social services she felt unsafe. No one acted. Because she was old. Because she lived alone. Because she was still functioning. Her death wasn't just a crime. It was a failure. We filed a civil suit against the institutions that ignored her. We won. But money doesn't bring people back. It only leaves records showing who stayed silent. 3 lawyers. 3 courtrooms. 1 woman. She didn't die because no one cared. She died because everyone assumed someone else was responsible. Justice isn't one story. It's the parts we choose to look at and the ones we don't.